Welcome to Geek Herring, a critical geek culture podcast where we talk about intersectional and inclusive feminism in a male-dominated environment. Hi, my name is Moni, and with me today is my lovely, amazing, glorious, with a bit foot hurt, but now overall, I don't know what I'm saying, co-host Amanda! Amanda. I'm so sorry.
Hi, Moni. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. And just to clarify what Moni is weirdly talking about, I absolutely face planted in London last week and twisted my ankle, and it's now all bandaged up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that happened.
It was just a trip of trips, to be honest.
It really was, yeah.
Not the good kind, but like some kind at least. But we turned it around, I think, eventually.
Kind of.
But
we did our best.
We did our best. If you have heard, we have some other incredible voice on today, which sounds really great, but is also really great.
Hey, y'all. It's Clarkisha Kent.
Hi,
Hey.
Clarkisha. Welcome
Hello.
to Geek Herring.
Welcome to the show. Clarkisha is she's incredible, and she is the author of Fat On, Fat Off, a Bit Bitch Manifesto, a book that just released at the beginning of this month, and we had the pleasure of reading. So we're very excited to talk to you about that. Clarkisha, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself before we get in?
Yes, the skinny on me. I can be summed up in 2 words, really. Internet shit talker. That is how I've made my living. That is what I still describe as myself now. But obviously, since then, since that, I've done other things. But if we're going back, I'm a culture critic, Nigerian-American culture critic. Grew up in Tennessee, moved out to Chicago, where I attended the University of Chicago. Changed my life, better for worse. And that's how I, made it to the internet. Since all of that, I started writing back in 2016 professionally. I've been writing before then, but 2016 was like the professional year. Started The Root, then ended up in places like MTV News, Entertainment Weekly, Paper Magazine, that kind of thing. And then, my agent eventually slid into my DMs and was like, "You look for an agent?" And I'm like, "How you know that?" And now we're here. We have Fat Off, Fat On, a Bit Bitch Manifesto, which was, published on the 7th of this month.
Nice. And it's really exciting. It's a really nice book. I loved it.
Thank you.
Just as a spoiler alert, I guess.
Well, thank you for your introduction. I'm so excited to get into this. But before we do, how do you feel about a rapid fire round so we can all get to know your geeky bits and more about you?
I'm ready.
Okay, so you already told us where you're from. So what are your pronouns?
She, her, hers.
Thank you. And when are you a geek since? So a year, maybe a story of your first geeky experience?
I think earliest geeky experiences, I would say, is being put onto Sailor Moon, because I remember I was in the Dollar Tree. It was Dollar Tree or Family Dollar, and I was like digging in the little bargain bins to like get the Sailor Moon DVDs, because you know how people like to separate the sets, and I was trying to assemble the sets. So I remember those were one of my earliest memories with one of my best friends. And then on the flip side, it was Power Ranger series. But Mighty Morphin would have come out when I was like very young, single digits. Was it 1999? Shit, I cannot remember exactly, but yeah, I remember being like single digits, talking about how badly I wanted to be a Power Ranger. Terrible. I was like, this is so awesome. How do I sign up for this? Then my sister was like, this doesn't exist, and I was sad. And that's one of my
We can make our own Power Rangers. Who says they don't exist? Fuck that.
But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I loved Sailor Moon and Power Rangers in the 90s. Like, they were just classic. So good. And what are some of your...
Sorry, never mind.
Go ahead.
I'm
Talk
just
about Power
wondering if
Rangers.
Power Rangers are also like a Mr. Bean phenomenon where there were only a few seasons, but you think there were a million. But I think there were a million seasons of Power Rangers, weren't
There
there?
were a million seasons. Yeah. They switched the kids out every so often. But yeah, that first season run, like I think though lasted like 3-4 years. Like they were there for a little bit. And then they switched them out for the aliens. And then it just, then it just kept going. Like every like 6 to 12 months they swapped the kids out. And then sometimes the older ones will come back. They felt like it. And like Tom, like
a lot
Jason,
of toys to sell those ones.
Yeah, Jason David Frank, rip. But yeah.
I remember playing like Power Rangers, acting it out with my dad. Like, you know how you play house, but we would play Power Rangers. I'm having horrible flashbacks. Let's move on. Horribly awkward flashbacks of like, I actually did that in front of my dad.
You didn't care then. You shouldn't really care now, right?
Well, that's true. I would go into my bedroom and make out with Tommy when I was like 7 years old. And I feel like this is very inappropriate to like play Power Rangers with your dad, but whatever.
Tommy was fine. Tommy was fine as fuck. Okay, Tommy was beautiful. One of my first crushes. Beautiful. But also the pretty ones get you in trouble. Paraphrasing Prince, but yeah, they get you in trouble all the time. But yeah, he's very pretty.
I'm still upset that your Bruce story ended the way it did. So upsetting. I was like, no. Oh, so sad. Anyway, sorry. What are your biggest geeky influences to move on the rapid fire round that's never rapid fire? So it could be books, movies, TV shows.
Okay. Biggest, damn. Okay. I would say shout out to Dwayne McDuffie for everything he touched in the DC universe, from Static Shock to Justice League, animated Justice League. I think that animated Justice League is in the last 20-30 years just a masterpiece in terms of like what animation can do, which is why I really don't tolerate when people disrespect animation, because there's so much. We're seeing it with the live action superhero movies, right? Where there's only so much you can do in them that is very magical. It's also the reason why I'm not really looking forward to no live action adaptation of Invincible. I think Invincible right now is perfect because it's animated. You get away with so much in animation because you're not limited to the human brain and what it can see or do or imagine, right? And animation just does whatever the fuck, right? So yeah, I would say Dwayne McDuffie / like early DC animation. Love it a lot. I go back and watch stuff all the time. Like when Kevin Conroy passed away, rip, I made sure to, like, in a flurry, because I had been putting it off, but I made sure to grab Batman Beyond series set, like, quick as fuck. And then I also grabbed the Batman anime series set as well. But yeah, then there was, what was it? Superman series. I remember that. It's been a while since I've seen that, but I'd love to get that on DVD too. But yeah, I love the entire, well, not the entire, after a certain point, I don't like it anymore, but early DC animation, I really like it a lot. I would say, early influences.
I love that. And what are some of your current geeky pastimes?
Current geeky pastimes. That's tough. Oh, actually not tough. What I lie. I'm sorry. So back into video games, because I kind of wax it. And my old PS4, she decided to quit on me. It's very tragic, so I had to take a break. But I got a new one because I was like, I'm sorry, until the PS5 comes down to a price that is reasonable for my black ass, I'm not buying it. So yeah, I went back to get the PS4. So I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey again, which I've beat before, but Sony does not like me, so I made a new account. So I gotta beat it again because I'm not gonna be at peace until I beat it. And so my PS4, my current PS4 says I beat the game. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also excited for the new one to come out because I think that one is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Is that the ones that's coming? I think so. I think they're going to Iran.
It sounds right.
I think so. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think they're going to Iran soon, and I'm very excited because I am. There's so much you could do with Assassin's Creed. So the fact that we keep like going to like white historical societies has always pissed me off. I'm like, you could go anywhere, baby. You go anywhere. I excuse the Greeks because the Greeks are cool, and I love Cassandra as a character. She's great. Very fantastic. Also, her voice actress, eight. No disrespect to the male voice actor, but he's not giving. It's very dry, very stilted. You know, because I took them both for a test run when I turned on the game. Just, you know, I was gonna play Cassandra anyway, but I wanted to see. It was dry. I was like, ew. And then I went back to Cassandra, and then I played the game. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Video games. I want to start playing more, but I need to do my research on what I would like to dive into next after this series. Excuse me.
Love that.
Nice.
And you're right. It's Mirage. It's coming out this year.
There you go.
Oh, it is. Yes. Okay.
I just checked out of curiosity.
Assassin's Creed is one of those series that I haven't actually got into. I found the first one very dry and repetitive, like climb a building, jump off, climb a building, jump off. And it's kind of soured me to the whole series, even though I know that it shouldn't, because I know it's an incredible like series and I just can't bring myself to actually try it again. But I really need to.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, those earlier ones I did not play myself. I watched like one of my siblings play. I love watching a good playthrough because I'll be like, I get to reap all the benefits of taking in all the story without touching a goddamn button on a controller, which is great. So I will say, if you're ever interested in at least the story, find you a nice playthrough. I think the earlier story for Assassin's Creed, I think, is really good because it hinges on Ezio Auditore, which is an ancestor of like one of the characters that you start out with in the game. It's called Desmond, whatever the fuck his last name is. I thought he was wholly unremarkable, but obviously because his ancestor was so cool, I'm like, okay, I guess we have to have you here to see your awesome ancestor, which I just feel like it's so funny because imagine someone coming up to you and being like, your great grandfather is so like awesome, and then you just kind of like, man, like imagine like saying like that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, we have to have him, I guess. But like every time, the story would kind of pivot to him and what he was doing present day. Because like I don't want to like spoil everything, but we got secret societies, we got government experiments, like it was a lot going on. So every time we switch to him present day, doing whatever the fuck that has to do with whatever the fuck I just said, I'm always like, I'm gonna like just deal with you because once again, your great grandpa is awesome, and I want to go back to his story. But yeah, I think it was like took place in like Florence, Italy. That's where it starts. And he starts as the young. Was he a teenage? Young teenage adjacent player boy, whatever the fuck. But yeah, and then it just goes left from there because his family, who was rich, gets caught up, and then it's the whole thing. I like it a lot. He gets over the next couple of games, he gets ultra serious, because he has like this like Batman like esque origin. Not really. I'm just saying Batman because some obviously happens to his parents, but. But yeah, kind of shit gets real from there, and then you have like shoot offs. You have like Black Flag, where we're talking about like American shit. Then you have what was it? What was the There's Origins, which took place in Egypt. That's kind of where they start doing, I don't want to say one-offs, but they start veering off of that person's story to like other people that is connected to this greater society, right? So yeah, that's my like short spiel on it, but I really love the series because I love history. If I hadn't done what I was doing now, I probably would have been like either like an English teacher or a history teacher.
Nice.
I studied history in school, so something I feel like I really should get into. So I think I need to give it another chance.
Yeah,
especially with that glowing review.
Get the playthrough so you can enjoy all the fun parts without having to jump off the goddamn buildings. Because that's weird. It's weird. I actually like Odyssey because like it kind of moves away from that a little bit. Like if you want to jump off the building, you can, but like it's not like central to everything.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like jumping off an occasional building. I just didn't want to jump off like 50 in a row.
Yeah. I mean, that's there's stuff that you can do a couple of times, but they get a bit tiring if you have to do them 100 times. So yeah. And if that's the main, well, it's not the main driver, but then I know that all this jumping up and down and things and climbing buildings, that's very Assassin's Creedy anyway. So that was just, you get over it quickly, I guess. Need the rest of the story.
For sure. Cool. But unfortunately, we're not here to talk about Assassin's Creed as much as I would actually love to. Maybe I'll play them all and then we'll invite you back on, Clarkisha, and talk about Assassin's Creed. We are here to talk about your incredible book, Fat Off, Fat On, a Bit Bitch Manifesto. So let's do that. I loved it. I thought it was a great read. I finished it. I started it here in Northern Ireland. I finished it when I was visiting my mom in Florida. So it's been across the ocean a couple times and by the pool and everything, just having a great old time. And I thought it was a really enjoyable read. I loved hearing the way you talk about your life was engaging. That's the word I'm looking for. It was really engaging. And I felt like I feel like I know you, and I'm like, oh, hey, old friend, just from reading your book. So for people who haven't read your book, how did you, or why did you decide to write something so personal?
Yeah, I guess I'll take it back to my agent. Shout out to Claire Draper from the Bend Agency. And like I mentioned, in 2018, 2019, they slid into my DMs, asking if I had representation yet. And I was like, no. So then we linked up. And originally I was going to write my Western first. I actually started writing a Western in college. So this would have been like 2015 actually is when I started writing it. And that's what I wanted to kind of like finish. I was like, okay, finally I have the opportunity to like put this shit out. And then me and Claire had a conversation and they were like, I'm with it. Cause they read my current draft of the Western and they're like, this is awesome. And I'm like, what you mean, but?
Never nice
about exactly, had a conversation about genres, right? And for better for worse, Western is very niche-y, right? And they were like, it's going to be a great project, obviously, but you don't really have name recognition now, especially as a Black author, which is very important. And I was like, you know what, true. So then they were like, have you considered? And they pitched a memoir, and I'm like, I don't know about that, because I'm like, memoirs are like, as a genre, like inherently narcissistic. Like, I know we like to act like it's not. It is. So I had some reservations about that, but they were like, it is whatever you want it to be. So I was like, okay, I get it. Get my toes wet and publishing, cool. So started writing a memoir. I want to say I phoned it in, but I obviously don't like people in my business. It's always been my thing. Like I'm okay with sharing certain things, but not all of the things. So that was definitely tough, but I had a really good editor Shout out to Lauren Rosemary Hook of Feminist Press, who, she was fair whenever she asked me to really dig deeper into a thought or a memory that I put on page. She never made it feel exploitative or never made it feel like I was just like slapping my trauma on the page for you to read, which I appreciated because I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. So yeah, that's how that on came to be, and that's how also the personal touches made it happen. Were made happen. I didn't say that right. Whatever. I'm done. I'm back. The moment's passed. But yeah, that's how it came to be. Yeah, it was a tough write though. It was a tough write because I definitely shared some things I hadn't spoken about publicly prior. So that was tough. But I think all things considered, it came out pretty well.
Yeah, I think so as well. From a reader's point of view, I think it must have been difficult, especially talking about your childhood. Because at times I found it difficult to read. So I can only imagine how it was for you writing through your experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, family is, what was it? What did Deadpool say? Family is an F word. Yes, family is an F word. I love those movies. But yeah, it's just they really mean it when they say, in a sense, that you can't choose them, right? But we're talking obviously about bio family because in reality you actually can choose your family. Mm-hmm. But that bio family shit, terrible, because you literally are. I'm very spiritual, right? So I have my own beliefs about reincarnation. But that said, when I was younger, the way I thought about it was they're literally just dropping you in with a group of random people, and they're just like, good luck. And I'm like, okay, this is about to get real nasty up here. They just drop you here. You're like, good luck. That's why sometimes I'm like, I feel like if your parents really shitty, you should be able to sue for being born. But obviously that has not caught on yet. That has not caught on yet. They're like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? Because some of y'all will be getting sued. That's why you don't want it to happen. Why you don't want it to happen? You be getting sued. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I'm laughing about it now because I can. But at the time, no, it's not great. But I definitely got lucky because not only did I was smart. I did try to be smart, and I also got help along the way. Community help, whether it was a couple of people within my mother's old church, or as my old friends, or the friends I eventually made going to college. Someone along the way always always helped. It's like being on in a video game on a journey, and you get the random character that you think is gonna be an NPC, just a a aggressive NPC that just have shit to offer, and it turns out to be I don't know, the turning point character of the level that you need. Shit like that. People that you thought would be maybe insignificant, choosing to not be insignificant. If that makes sense. So, yeah, I got here with the help of that community. And yeah, even though I'm not a fan of the University of Chicago, as they've probably heard many times from me, but I will say going there, definitely a game changer for me because I created distance from my family, lots of distance, because since I'm from Tennessee, obviously the goal for them was for me to either go to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville or to go to Vanderbilt. Both of those are way too close of a drive, and they would have made that drive. But Chicago, not so much. 8 hours, 8-hour drive. So, yeah, I would say going to that school definitely set me up to part ways with them for good, because then I could also, in addition to that space, also have time to gather my own resources, make friends with people who had nothing to do with them, because that was the other thing. A lot of reasons why abuse and other things are perpetuated in a community is because not enough people say something, or not enough people do anything. So it's not enough for you to be my friend or to make sure I'm okay. What are you actively doing to stop these parents, these families being horrible? And then when stuff like that happens, you really can't risk sometimes maintaining contact with those kind of people, because it may go back to your terrible family or, abusive family through the grapevine. So it was really nice and refreshing to make friends that weren't in those immediate circles with my terrible family. So that's just a little bit about me, a little bit more, I should say.
I also think we need to really say, or like, because there is this weird as fuck societal pressure that you always need to be nice to your family or you owe them some shit. And
yeah,
just because somebody fucked somewhere on the planet and I crawled out of someone else doesn't automatically make this family a family. Just because you come out of the same person or somebody squeezed you out doesn't mean that that's what a relationship is automatically like that there is a relationship or a good relationship automatically. And the pressure, especially I think on children as well, to be like, but these are your parents, you need to be nice and kind to your parents because they did so much for you, is such annoying fucking bullshit, where it's just pissing me off that and it is also the reason why so much abuse is perpetuated as well, because everybody is like, you need to stay in this environment or whatever, and I'm just like, no, I don't fucking know, I don't need to. If it's harmful to me, I don't need to, and everybody's seeing it and nobody's doing anything. And then exactly, they are your parents, you need to keep trying. Why the fuck should I need to keep trying if they treat me like shit for so long? Like, it's not my responsibility as a child to be the whatever about the savior of the family just because they don't get their shit together. It's like, you need to do what's right for you, and that if that's not your family, then this is fucking not your family. That's other people who give a shit about you and who like really give a shit about you and not use you for whatever.
I don't remember her name, but she's this black lady on TikTok. She's so funny. She'll say one-liners like, I'm not DJ Khaled, but I'm always winning, like shit like that. And I can't remember her name, but like she was talking about it, like idea of family, right? She was talking about it. She's drawing out all her points on the blackboard, and she's spitting, but she's talking about the two-way street that is respect. And she was talking about like the way that some of y'all families treat y'all and talk to y'all. There's no way on this earth that if a stranger on the street came to you and was talking to you like this, you wouldn't smack them in the mouth. 100%. And a lot of people in the comments were like, oh yeah, touche. And I'm like, it's not even touche. Like sometimes I'm like, y'all, like, where's the self-respect? Like, because society, and I get it, societal messaging is hard to break or whatever, but at a certain point you get old enough to like know better, but also to like read about the alternative. Like, you don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over again, because that is what we call insanity. Like, you can do something different. You can do something different.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of my thing. Like, obviously I don't push it on people because I don't want to be that person like, oh, I'm not talking to none of my family anymore. So like, all of you should totally do it. It's so awesome. Even though I personally think it is awesome. But, I understand that people have obligations to their family. I also understand that culturally it's difficult for some of us. My parents are immigrants, Nigerian immigrants. I understand to a certain extent what they went through to get here. Because this is, because at some point Nigeria had a civil war, and it was not pretty, right? So I get that. That said, I don't think as a child I should have been subject to their frustrations over that. And that's what really ended up happening. They took that stuff out on us as children. And I'm like, that's never appropriate. I'm sorry. It's never appropriate. Yeah. I'm a child. you wanted me to be here, so it's your responsibility to like do right by me. And but people don't look at it like that because people don't like children, and more than not liking children, because it's one thing not to like okay, you don't like me, whatever, fuck off. But they also don't respect children, also don't consider children human. To them, children are just like an accessory, to them an extension of themselves, which is so funny. It says a lot. So if I'm an extension of you and you're mistreating me, that says a lot about you, how you feel about yourself. But we never get into that, always gloss it over. But yeah, that's what I would say about family. Just very weird. And then people also forget, like I mentioned in the book, that it is also an economic feature. Like the way that it's presented in the States, I can't speak for anyone else, but in the States is an economic feature. They're not doing this out of altruism or the kindness of their heart. They're economic unit. If y'all look at our tax code here, everything will start to make sense. You are single and you make a little bit of cash, they hate you and they'll tax you into the ground. But it's a conversation for another day.
Interesting, though.
Monty's Austrian mind just was like, whoa, U.S. taxes.
I mean, I know that, the thing of it being more tax friendly when you're married, like that's a thing, or at least I think it was a thing. Maybe it still is a thing. In a way that it made sense for my parents or whatever to get married, and like people in older generations to get married. I don't think it's as prevalent anymore now, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just living in a wild marriage with no marriage. So I'm not married, and I don't care. I don't need a piece of paper to show my appreciation and love to someone. So it's not like
you really don't.
Like,
people. It's not about Americans have romanticized it. If we're being honest, they weren't the only ones, but
yeah.
It's not supposed to be romantic. Like we people use this for like property in exchange of women. We're like,
I know
it's not meant to be, right?
The thing that blew my absolute fucking mind is that the reason why engagement rings are so expensive is basically as a promise to the person. So they would need to be worth 3 times the monthly income that the person is making, and I'm just like, mind blown, because it couldn't be any more obvious. And people like, this is so romantic, I'm sharing my life. No, you fucking don't. No, you're not. You get shared like, I don't know, a bunch of kettle on the field or something. But anyway, I'm romantic.
Yeah, and also they used to make it. They also wanted it to be that expensive too, as like collateral for the woman. Like if shit goes south, you could take this ring, go pawn this shit, and be okay.
Yeah.
So it's not supposed to be romantic. I feel like people got weird with it. I also think it's Christianity's fault too. But yeah, present day, I was like, if you gonna do it again, it's for the taxes and for certain assets. Also, if you are someone who is again estranged from your entire family, something to look into, like in addition to that, or like estate planning. Estate planning. You do not want your bitch ass mom coming to you on your little deathbed trying to make your medical decisions. Please, y'all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's literally all I would recommend it for. But people trying to make it romantic always kind of. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not gonna shit on your parade, but like, let us.
Also have been to many weddings that were a fucking shit show as well. So just like, I'm over this, all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Some demon jumps out of people when weddings happen, marriages are established. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Should not be so serious, but it is.
It is.
I'm like, okay, all right, y'all.
I gave myself my engagement ring. There was no money exchanged here for this.
You're like, I do myself. I don't need all that. You're like, no. Thank you, but
no. Okay. I love this conversation. I've been listening to you too. I have a really good relationship with my family, so I find it interesting to hear people talk about the relationships between like their family dynamics. So I've just been sitting here really just listening and letting it sink in. So thanks for sharing, both of you, family stuff. Mm-hmm. So when you're not writing your Bit Bitch Manifesto, you write a lot of geek culture. How did you get into that? Just to veer out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it will go back to like the DC animated stuff, because that's where I really started. Then we ventured into Marvel stuff, you know, inevitable, right? And then what happened was that 2005, 6, eventually dipped into games for both of these superhero franchises or universes, whatever the fuck. So I remember, what was it? It was Ultimate Alliance. That's where I started, and then it kind of like snowballed, because then you had the Spider-Man. Was it Spider-Man 2? Yeah, the Spider-Man game on a PlayStation or PlayStation 2, and it just kind of ventured off into different directions. Because I love geeky stuff, including gaming. So then at a certain point, I don't think it was enough for me to just be playing. Yes.
You wrote for the Miles Morales Spider-Man game?
No, I did not.
Oh, that's what
no.
I was like, holy shit.
Monty was like,
not that it's not cool that you wrote for the not that anything else isn't cool either, but sorry.
No, I wish. I've been a great honor to have on my resume. I'd be like, yeah, I wrote some of this. But no, so I eventually kind of moved on. Not moved on. I like pivoted from like gaming stuff because I wanted to like write my own stuff. At one point, I wanted to write a comic, but then like I've seen how some of these comic people are, and I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay, because my temperament is like, no, like I could not be in that environment, because I'll just turn up, and not in the good way, bad way. So eventually, instead of doing that, I got into like writing. Like, so there would be some stories inspired by these characters. I got into some fan fiction for a little bit, then tabled that when I went to college, because I just didn't have enough time to dedicate to it. So then it went from that into doing these articles, these blog posts about these characters on my website. And then when I left college, I started doing them professionally. So that's pretty much what happened. And, I came up in the geek space writing about these things. Like I'd write about shows like Arrow, Luke Cage. Did not really get to the Flash because I was a little iffy on the Flash. But listen, I love Candace Patton, so I was like, as long as she get a paycheck, I don't care. Show can go on for 50 seasons. As long as she getting paid, that's all I care about. Like, she get her check? Okay, all right. I don't care if that is 45. It's cool. Why don't you get paid? Because those TV residuals, they be hitting. So I'm like, get your money, girl. So that's pretty much what happened. And then, eventually, I don't want to say I moved on, but I pivoted from just kind of like that medium to talking about like other TV shows and other movies and et cetera, et cetera. And then I continued. At one point I was like super invested in the MCU. I'm not completely off it, but like it's definitely like waned my interest in it. I actually wrote something in college. I got an A on it. It was great. I wrote something on college in one of my film classes about the MCU and how sustainable it was, how long it might go on. I don't remember my initial prediction. I think my initial prediction was like between like 10 to 15 years. So I got to do the math on that because I don't know where we are now. But yeah, I talked about stuff like that because I'm like, these movies, are very interesting, very fun for the most part. But one thing about this country in particular is that they love to kill a genre by milking it dry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where like my interest is like waned over time. Because after like Infinity War and Endgame, which terrible. I don't care what nobody said, terrible. It just ruined some of my favorite characters. Because people don't know how to write endings, and it always makes me sad. Because I'm like, thank you for fucking up like 10 years of writing, yay.
No.
But yeah, I think that was a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered your question. I really do.
Did, thanks. And I loved in your book as well that some of your closest relationships that you spoke about, anyway, obviously I don't know all your relationships, but that you spoke about came about through like connections with video games. And that connection really brought you together with your chosen family, with your close friends, and just love that. I love the geek world bringing us all together.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, it's a very rich world. So it's easy to get into because there is a fantasy element to the geek world that invites the most marginalized of us to come into space and imagine something better, which is why it'll that's why it'll keep attracting people, because that's very hopeful sentiment, and we need a lot more of that in the world, even though people like to act like they're incredibly jaded and hate everything, which I think is kind of childish, but that's a conversation for another day.
It's true. People hating things just for the sake of it is boring, and don't you have anything better to do with your life than hating on shit?
Yeah. Let's grow up, move on. Hate shit that actually matters.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, life is very long, but also it's very short when you turn around and look right. And I'm a professional hater, so I do be hating on some stuff, right? But that said, I'm not wasting all of my time doing that. Like, I would rather, especially where I am now. Like, when I was younger, I probably definitely wasted more time talking about stuff I hated, right? But now I'm like older, I'm like, all that time that I'm wasting on that could be used to talk about something I actually like.
I know. I always wonder
like,
these internet trolls, like, what the fuck are you doing all day that you don't know, like, that you find random threads on Twitter that you are not tagged with, that you don't follow, and you find those on the internet, and you spend your time shitting on people for the sake of it because you disagree with them. Like, how fucking bored of your mind must you be? Like, what are you doing?
They're bored as fuck. It's the internet is as a public good very awesome. How people use it, very dark-sided. Having there, there's some good and bad elements to being anonymous, right? When you're going against totalitarian governments, you do want to be anonymous, right? But at the same time, people are not well, right, and will abuse that for nefarious purposes, as we've seen. So yeah, it's hard sometimes to not want to crack down on that, because I say all the time, I was like, a lot of you people would not talk to me like this to my face. That's that. Right? That's why you act out online. So yeah, some days I just imagine like being like just like watching someone say like the crazy shit to me and then just pulling up on their house. Because I just know they'd be like, oh my God, yeah, I'm a real person. Yeah, and you're a real person who's saying crazy things on the internet. Like every time I see a video like that, I just laugh. It's so funny. Because I remember it was a couple years ago. I think this was either during the pandemic or right before. So like I think 2019, 2020. But this person on Twitter like was talking crazy to this rapper. I think this happened in New York, but don't quote me. But he's talking crazy to this rapper. And the rapper pulled up to his job. Like he worked at, I want to say like this sports job or something. Like he works somewhere where like clothes/apparel was sold. And like this rapper pulled up like with his like entourage. And when I say entourage, it's like 2 people. It's not like
I'd still shit myself.
Same.
So 2 like like clearly I think maybe this is like security or something, right? But he pulled up. And he said his little screen name, and you could just see his like soul leave his body. And I was just like, this is so delicious. Like I'm really living in this moment right now. Because he was just like, oh, I was just playing. And then the rapper obviously reminded him what he said, which was like trifling as fuck. And he's like, you just playing. He's like, yeah. And obviously he pretended like he's gonna beat his ass. He didn't end up doing it, right? But he was like, he made his sweat a little bit. And I appreciate that. Because I'm just like, you'll never do this again.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never do this again. Because now you will live in eternal fear that someone will, in fact, as they say, pull up on you. And then you won't say the stupid thing on the internet that you've been saying. So sometimes I do wish more of that stuff happened. Now, obviously, that would have some interesting repercussions because, again, people are not well. And all people, not just people on the internet, right? Yeah. So, I don't want it to be an issue where you're, fairly criticizing someone who may be awful and now they're pulling up on you. Because now that has like different repercussions, right? But I don't know. I just wish people would not be so disrespectful on the internet.
It's true.
Because a lot of that disrespect is usually targeted towards like marginalized people, and that's where my issue comes in. But yeah, convo for another day.
If we would all fight against the bigger thing, it's always the punching down and never the like. It's not the issue. The issue isn't coming from below. The issue is coming from above, right? And nobody is punching up, but everybody is always punching down. And I'm like, ugh, could we maybe channel that energy into something more productive that is not ruining everybody else, but ruining the people causing it? Anyway, the crux of life and people in pain, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Changing the subject.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What is how do you feel about publishing a book instead of what you've been doing up until now? How has that impacted your life?
I'm gonna be honest with you, since it's come out, like it doesn't feel real. I know that sounds like weird, but it just like doesn't. I feel like when I put out like my articles, I'm just like, okay, I wrote this thing, and then like I put it out, and now it's just like out here for everybody to see. But like with the book, it's interesting because they're just like, okay, it's out there, and like people like can choose to pick it up or like put it down. And I don't know, it's weird. Like there's like a physical aspect to it that technically makes it more tangible, but at the same time, my brain just cannot comprehend it. She's like, it's out, and I'm like, yeah. Like, so every now and then, I'll get like tagged on like Instagram or like Twitter, which I enjoy these things, right? They'll be like, oh, Clarkisha, I got your book, and da 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 da. Either they'll tell me how they felt about it, or like, the fact that they just got it, or like they can't wait to get it, or etc. And I'm just like, yeah, wow, I have a book out. That's freaky. So like my brain has not, I'm not gonna lie, my brain has not really adjusted. I think it's gonna take a minute. I was talking to my agent Claire, and they're like, yeah, that just might be how you feel. And I'm like, what? But they're like, yeah, they're like, yeah, it's not gonna like feel like real for a minute. So they were like, but it's okay, you can sit in that feeling. Like it's not necessarily a bad feeling, just like your brain trying to process like this new phase in your life, right? So because writing a book is most certainly different than writing an article. I could be writing an article for, even if I'm writing something like researching for a couple months, let's say it is like a reported piece. At a certain point, I'm gonna report the piece and then it's like done. Like people can come back and read it or whatever. But like, with the book, there's a longevity to a book that I think you have to be prepared for as a writer. Yeah, because I think it's easy for us to get cringy about our work, particularly past work that we've done. They'll be like, "Oh my god, like I don't know why I wrote this," or like, "This is so weird now." And meanwhile, I be like, "I wrote the best shit ever." It could be 10 years ago, and I'm like, "I wrote the best shit ever," because that's how I wanted to write it at the time, and that's what I was prepared to write at the time. So at the time, I thought it was fucking awesome, and it's gonna remain, where it is. But yeah, the book is definitely different. Requires a different subset of skills. Like I mentioned, that feed into the longevity theme that I'm talking about. Like you really need some fortitude. You really do. Cause like there gonna be certain points where you don't want to fucking write the shit. You're just like, I'm tired of looking at I really am. Cause I had a couple of those days, but you have to think long term. So thinking long term then turned into like, okay, I don't want to write this book right now, but let me do like 2 pages today and then be done. And then let's say the next day I feel great about the book. Then I could write, I don't know, 3 chapters. Like I tried to like, I tried to allow myself the space to flail around in the genre, roll around the genre, enjoy the genre, dislike the genre, So yeah, it's definitely surreal, but also again, does it feel very real? Hopefully I get to a place where I'm just like, yeah, I wrote a book, and I'm just like, yeah, it's the thing that happened. But right now, it's still kind of like, yeah, I wrote a book. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, I wrote a book. Like, what's happening?
And you're
next?
also ranking quite high on the Amazon list and things. 69, nice.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. I'm super happy about that. But yeah, it's always interesting too as a creative, because like we do stuff and then our brain immediately is like, okay, what's next? So
we know that feeling well.
Yes, my brain's doing that a lot too. So I've been definitely like telling her like, relax. Because like I mentioned, the Western is happening. But the issue with that is that it's going to take gargantuan amount of research. Because people think Westerns are just fun and gunslinging and da 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 da, and I'm like, this was after slavery. This is the recon of the period that y'all like to play around in, and toss your lassos and do your gunslinging and ride your horses. I was like, this was Reconstruction. This was the period right after slavery and right before Jim Crow. It's a very important like moment in American history where people tried to do something and then it went left. There was a period to literally reconstruct this country and it went left. So with that being in the background, I have to do so much research because I got to think about how people spoke, because how someone spoke in, I don't know, Kansas is not going to be the same way someone spoke in Texas, right? So I got to research that. Clothes that were worn, medicine, which was not great. So things of that nature, right? So, yeah. So that's kind of what's happening. And I'm still trying to enjoy my moment right now with the book. But yeah, my brain's definitely like on go. Let's do something else. And I'm like, relax. It's going to be fine.
Yes.
So we ride the wave of fat off, fat on, and do your promotion and hype that up. And then you slide there into the Western. And I am really excited to hear, I haven't heard very much coming out in the Western genre in a very long time. It's not really a genre that I know very much about, and I didn't know there was still people writing in there. So I'm like really kind of geeking out that I'm going to get to read your Western soon. Well, soon, hashtag, whenever that is.
Yeah, I'm going to be probably good. I would say, to be safe, probably in the next 5 years. But maybe sooner than that. But I just know that this book, I'm gonna take myself a break. That's what I know for sure.
How long did it take you to write Fed Off, Fed On?
It took about like a year and some change because I got the contract in November of 2020, which was a couple of days. So was it so I want to say the first week of November 2020, but was also like a couple of days after I suffered a house fire. So that was fun. I had to pull over the side of the road and sign my book contract because I was not in a home at that point. So that was the thing. And after that, I didn't really start writing until I want to say like maybe April, March of 2021. Because obviously you need a second to decompress from all of that. So then I started writing around that, and then I wrote for like a year and some change, and then the massive edits came, and then when that was done, then we started taking the pictures for the cover, planning out promotion, not shopping around, but like asking around for people who were interested in new blurbs, that kind of thing.
Cool. Fun process. Like everything that's going into all of it. It's not just the writing, it's so much more than that as well. Like fascinating.
Now the writing is like, the meat of it, it's like, I don't know, your cold cuts, which obviously important part of the sandwich, right? That's what we're here to eat, the cold cuts. That said, you can't just eat the cold cuts by itself. Like, where's the bread, the mayo, the Dijon mustard, maybe you like some cheese, some pepper, you need some, yeah.
You want to make that sandwich enjoyable in all the ways.
Right. Like a sexy, enjoyable sandwich that I'd be proud to eat. So that requires a team effort.
Totally. Before we ask you your last question, is there anything else you want to talk about today?
I mean, not really. I think you all cover like a lot, so.
With pleasure. Yeah. All right. So our last question then is, what advice would you give someone interested in getting involved with writing about geek culture or writing their first book?
Advice I would give them. Very excellent question. Let me think. I would say whatever you think currently about writing or think about writing, like if you don't know shit. That's what I would say. I would be like, just format the little hard drive in your head, erase all that shit, and then reapproach the process of writing, a book. It's nothing like you expect. But sometimes that's a good thing, right? Because it presents more of like a challenge. And it's good to challenge yourself. I feel like human beings are dynamic creatures, or supposed to be dynamic, because I feel like we all know people who are like just the antithesis of that. They're just like, I'm just here, I'm not doing nothing, right? But humans are dynamic creatures in general, and in order for us to truly be dynamic, you have to be willing to challenge yourself, because that's how that progress and that evolution happens. So yeah, I would say that temper your expectations when it comes to writing. I would also like to say that it's not as glamorous as people like to make it seem. Not a bad thing, but I say that to mean that if you want to get into writing, you do really have to love it. You do. There are certain things you have to love to really be able to stick out the bullshit, right? I would say that about teaching. I would say that about anything that's like medical related. There's no way that you'll have any longevity in these type of like areas if there's no love in your heart for what you are doing. Obviously love is not enough, right? We know that, duh. But that said, like if you're interested in lasting, there has to be present. Like it's nice to be skilled. It's nice to know how to write your ass off. That's always great. You want those skills, but like if you really don't give a shit, like I would definitely say to steer clear, because there is so much shit that you have to wade through as a writer, no matter where you decide to write. Even if you're writing, I don't know, a tech writer for some company, you still have to love that shit, because as we know, as we're seeing with the rap man on Twitter, like these companies, these bosses are insane. So like, if you are interested in doing any type of writing, you really have to like fuck with it. Like, you really have to like love what you're doing, because sometimes you're gonna need that when you're operating on fumes. So that's what I would say. My advice. A lot of advice.
That is great advice.
Great.
Really, really good advice. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today and for talking about your book and your life and your experiences. Where can people find you on this wonderful internet that we love and hate?
Yes. So mainly right now I am on Twitter while the app is still functional. I'm at I write all day _ and then I am on Instagram at Clarkisha Kent. And then I'm also on Hive. I'm still playing around with Hive, so I'm on Hive Social at also Clarkisha Kent.
Hive Social.
And Hive Social, yeah, cute app. I love it. And yeah, aside from that, you can also go to my website at www.clarkishakent.com. So I try to, it's tough. Try to update my website as often as possible with like book tour info, because I'm taking kind of like a very how would I say, I don't want to say free fall, but a very like free approach with like the book tour, because as you know, these publishers, though they make lots of money, they do not care about the feminist press is, you know, excluded from that because they're an indie publisher, and we know it's different for them, right? But for these like big time, the HarperCollins and the random whatever the fuck they call themselves now, they done bought each other like 6 different times, so the names are always changing. But you know, these big time publishers, they have the money, they don't want to cough it up, so oftentimes these tours are coming out of the author's pocket. So yeah, I'm doing an approach right now where I'm just seeing which one of my friends are in certain cities, and we're just putting stuff together and hoping it sticks. So yeah, you can go to my website for that kind of information, or just kind of see the work I've done, see some of my litmus tests that I've put on there, including the Kent test and the Kelly and Kat test, which is a newer test. So yeah, that's where you can find me and my work.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we'll put links to all of that and to your book in our show notes, for ease for our listeners to find all your places.
Thank you. This is great. I loved being here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Taking the time to doing this with us.
Yeah. So that's all that we have for you this week on Geek Herring. We will see you again next week. Yes, we will, for another amazing episode. Bye.
Bye.